everyone. This is Jose. It is my day to podcast alone. I hope you're having a great day. I hope that you are feeling content in your heart, and that's so far so good for today. Okay, you guys, I first of all want to remind you of how fun we are on Instagram. Please look at anything that we're up to, either the summer special or our email list or anything that you can support us and be a part of your weight loss with us. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. So hello, everyone. Okay, today I want to talk about my fear of flying, how I overcame that fear, and how that is very linked, like the way that it all happened, how we can definitely link this to anything that you might be fearing, whether it's, you're fearing failing weight loss, or having a conversation with your spouse, just like anything you can relate it to. So hopefully I'll create some awareness here and you will connect my story to your life. Okay, so this is what's up. You guys, I had a massive, deep fear, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, around flying. And when Jeff announced on date night, so this is our story, you guys. So we were on date night, I think it's December 2019. And Jeff says to me, like, I want to enroll in the Moncton Flight College program, and I want to become a pilot. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I said, okay, there are three things that I need to know. When are you going to do this? This takes time. So I am afraid of the time commitment, the investment as well. So can we afford this? What does this mean in terms of financially? Clearly, that's a question. And I'm also afraid of you dying. This is basically the three things I told him that night. I said, the top three things that come to mind are those three things. And he's like, okay, like very solid. He said, I said, we're already really busy and we can't just like have you take a course. When are you going to do your hours of flying? Like I have my shit going on and like you cannot interrupt what is up with my life, but I'm going to try to coexist my needs with yours. So he is like, you know what? I really want to do this. I will go early morning before the kids wake up. Yes, some mornings you will be alone, but the kids are growing up. And I was like, you know what? I am willing to be alone with the kids in the morning. If it was every night, that would have bothered me. So he says, I'm going to wake up early and it'll be early mornings. And obviously he would study at night and whatever. So you guys, he did it. We rocked it as a couple. It didn't really like change anything in my life because it was just, he was waking up at 5 a.m. And if you know anything about Jeff, like he is not an early riser. He definitely loves to sleep in. And so for him to offer to do this at 5 a.m. was really like, it showed how this was a part of who he wanted to be. And it was quite inspiring actually. So then he's like, so I told him that night that he told me that he was doing this. I said, I am never flying with you. I said that to him. I said, I am never flying with you and our kids are never flying with you. Like, this is just like this solo thing that you're doing. And he said, well, that sucks. Like I was more planning on, buying a plane, us being able to go on adventures. And that's where he like got me because he knows how I love to travel. Now, I have a fear of flying, but I love traveling. So I never let that stop me, but flying with Jeff is like next level, like absolutely not. And then he's like, but we could do this and we could do that. And he was really, really making it sound amazing. And I said, okay. I said, right now I'm saying no, but go do your thing and we'll see. So here's the thing. In order for me to be able to really dig deep and figure out why I was so fearful of flying, I needed to actually go deep into my thoughts and say, why are you fearing this? Like, what specific part are you fearing? And I'm guessing you're listening to this and you're like dying, like just crashing, right? So what I did, instead of just saying like, I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I don't want to do this, I used my words. I asked questions, all of the questions, all of the silliest questions that made no sense to Jeff or maybe the regular person. But for me, I needed him to answer them. So I would say things like, so how does the plane crash? And then he'd explain to me. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd be like, okay, well, okay, first, wait, wow, I'm like all over the place. I want you to know that I realized quite early on while I was reflecting on my fear of flying that I disliked my lack of control. So, for example, like I don't understand how a plane works. And if ever something were to go wrong, I cannot help. Like basically, this is it, you guys. I realized that I was not afraid of flying. I was afraid of the pilot. Now that might be crazy, but like I never realized it until I went deep in my thoughts. So this is my first advice to you. If you're fearful of something, is it because your lack of education? So that was one of the things for sure. It was lack of trust and lack of education and lack of control. So take that awareness and do with it as you want. But that was it for me. So I had lack of education on how a plane crashes. I had lack of trust in the pilot and obviously lack of control. Obviously, that's like one of the main things for anxiety, right? When you don't control something, that's when you have anxiety. So I realized that a big part, a huge part of my fear of flying came from not knowing the pilot. Like the pilot for me, like I need to have a conversation with you. I need to make sure you're not drunk. I need to make sure that you're in a happy place in your life. Like all of that for me is like this pilot, this person that I do not know. I need to trust this person that they're going to do everything in their mighty might. This is not a thing to support me and to keep me alive. So I never felt that way every time I would hop in a plane, right? I'd always be like so worried. Then I realized when I fly with Jeff, I know the pilot. I trust the pilot. And so that piece in terms of flying with Jeff and that piece of not trusting went away when it comes to Jeff. So I actually have zero anxiety flying with Jeff, like zero, like not even like a butterfly. Like I'm excited, only excitement whenever I'm like, yes, we're going to go fly. So that's really exciting. Okay, that doesn't take away the part of education and crashing. So I needed to learn so much about flying to be able to let go of that fear of crashing. And I needed to understand how it happens and I needed to understand why it happens. And so in order for me to let go of that fear, so the first fear was trust, so knowing the person. Then it's the education piece, asking the questions, someone answering me. All right. So please, 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 if you are fearing something and you're not talking about it and you're not asking the AKA dumb questions, you're never going to get over that fear because you're going to stay with your limiting beliefs. And so I can't right now in this very moment, I can't like think of specific questions that I asked Jeff, but like, for example, while I'm flying with him, let's say it's like beep, 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 beep. Well, that's not a fun sound when you're 10,000 feet in the air. So I'd be like, what is that sound? And then he answers me. Also being able to like see him with my eyes and see that he's not panicking helps me. And just experience and time. So we've done multiple hours together in the plane. I now know a lot more about flying. And when you know a lot more about something, it lets go of that fear and that anxiety because you have more knowledge on it. We also had very good conversations about like, for example, he was flying and Kobe Bryant's helicopter crashed in January 2020. Okay. And I'm like, there you go. See how accidents happen, you know, and if it can happen to this person, it can happen to us. And like, and he's like, I guarantee you that someone flew in situations they were not supposed to fly in. And fair enough. Like, definitely it was very, very foggy that day. it is now proven that the pilot, now this is just the conversation Jeff and I, so don't come at me with facts, you guys. I am just here alone in my office talking to you, so don't even come at me. I don't know what I'm saying. But according to Jeff, the pilot got disoriented, which often happens in fog because you don't see the ground and you don't see where you are. And in helicopters, you can actually be flying upside down and not feel it and not know it. Isn't that insane? Anyways, I'm learning all about these things on how pilots fly in situations and in weather that they should not be flying. They're risking it. And he says, we will not be risking anything. We make sure that the temperature is what it should be. We make sure that we listen to the rules. And so it was just like very reassuring. And I just get to ask any questions, even if they're silly, even if he rolls his eyes at me. Sometimes he does that and I could not care less because I'm like, right now, and I tell him that, I'm like, right now, your passenger is anxious. You need to answer me in a way that makes me feel safe. That is your job as a pilot, Jeffrey. So I answer him that way. He's like, okay. So for example, we were going to land and it was very windy. And he's like, I might not be able to land. If I see that I can't land, I'm just going to go back up and we're going to go land in another airport. And I'm like, what does that mean if you see you can't land? What does that look like? And he's like, well, it's going to be too windy and I won't be able to put my wheels on the ground without breaking the plane or it going like kind of like crooked. And I'm like, okay, can the plane just like, and I'm like, is it windy enough that this is me, that the air flips us over? And you should have seen his face. He's like, no, that's not how it works. And I was like, okay, I don't know how the F a plane works. That's why I'm asking you. So you guys, I guess this was just entertainment, but I am so not nervous flying now. I actually get more nervous with like Air Canada than anything else because I don't know the pilot and I'll never be able to know that. But I know that I have a pilot with me that I can ask questions to. So that really helps. I also know how I have more education on how a plane actually crashes and how it actually works. And I know more stats and I know more than probably the normal person. So that really helps my fear. So I guess what I'm trying to say is trust is usually behind the fear. Experience and education is usually behind the fear. And I want you to know that you will never get through that fear if you don't ask questions, if you don't get more informed. So I really do hope that in whatever, I guess, part of your life that you want to use this knowledge or this podcast, you go for it. You go and ask your questions. You go and, I guess, conquer your fears with and have the reflection behind the scenes of why you're so fearful. And people would think, I think it's because you think you can crash. And I'd be like, I think I'm more rational than that. Like I knew that that was not my ultimate fear, but I think it was mostly like just the trust. I didn't trust the pilot. I didn't trust his intentions because I didn't know him. And so him or her. So for me, it was very much that piece. For you, it might be something else, but for me, that was it. So that's why you can't compare your fear to someone else. If I am fearful of flying, it doesn't have to be for the same reasons as you. So you need to figure out what your reasons are. Why are you anxious? Why are you fearing this? And even if it's like weight loss, like why are you feeling to fail? What does that mean to you? What part? Okay. So hopefully this was like, just, I don't know, you got to learn a little bit more about me and my fear, and you got to, I don't know, get some content for you to create awareness around your life. Okay, you guys, follow us, like this podcast, tell your friends about it, review our podcast. We are just so excited and so happy about how our podcast is going. We love showing up this way. So thank you so much for listening. Okay, bye.